Hi everyone, I am Michelle from Sage Wedding Pros. Welcome. I live in Miami, so here I am. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about some accounting 101 issues this week, and we also have a couple extra calls, so thank you everybody for joining. Feel free to pop your questions in the comments as I'm going. I only have 10 minutes. I'm going to talk really fast because we have a lot to cover. So first things first, people always want to jump into the numbers and start tracking all of their income, their expenses, where they're spending money. But what I tend to see is that people are really disorganized with their paperwork. So I want you guys to get organized with all of your receipts first. That's the first step in getting organized. So what I see people doing are crazy things. Some of you guys are like scanning receipts. Let me tell you, that is way too much work. You guys have to stop overloading yourself with accounting tasks. Let's keep it simple, okay? So what I want you guys to do is I want you to do two things. I want you to set aside 12 manila folders and label them for the upcoming 12 months. So let's say we're in May right now. Why don't you label them from May 2017 through April 2018? Anytime you spend money on something, just tuck the receipt in there. So if you go to Starbucks with a client, stick the receipt in there. Now you need to keep your receipts for tax purposes for 7 years. That's a really long time to be running around with paperwork. But what I do at the end of the year is I stick all of those folders in a box, put them in my garage, and I say destroy 2025 or whenever I can destroy them. If you're audited, they could want to look back up to 7 years, okay? So make sure that you're holding on to those for a while. Now what do you do with stuff that comes in email? Go ahead and put it into a file folder in your files that you can label with the same sort of system, by year, by month, okay? I print them. I just want it all in the same place. It's a lot of paper, so I'm sorry about that to the trees, but it's part of being organized, okay? So a lot of you guys had questions in the event page about what systems to use, what apps to use. There's the most simple thing to get started with is Excel. Set up an Excel spreadsheet. Now the Excel spreadsheet needs to have two tabs. One to manage your income, those are all of your sales, and the other tab to manage all of your expenses. So let's talk a little bit first about the income side of things. I got a sheet here, so I don't miss any points here. I want to make sure we're on time too. So in your income sheet, what you want to do is you want to label, going down the first column, all of your clients' names, whatever system works for you, last names, maybe for bride and groom if you're in the wedding industry. And then you want to label the columns as months, January, February, March, and so on, okay? And anytime a client pays you money, just put the amount in that column. You'll likely be using an invoicing system, something like 17 Hats or Honeybook or FreshBooks, something like that. Go ahead and keep using that system. Just make sure that you have a place to track those all of those incomes for each specific month. Now, some of those have reports, and if they have reports for sales, then you don't necessarily need to be tracking them specifically in that spreadsheet, okay? You can just export that report and then copy and paste it into that little spreadsheet so that it's all in one place. Very easy. Expenses is a little more complicated. I can tell in some of the comments that you guys had in the event page that there's lots of different things happening with expenses. So the easiest thing, if you're using an Excel sheet to track your expenses, is to download the bank information. You can typically download from your website a CVS file, or a CSV file, not CVS file, a CSV file, and that you can open up in Excel. That's going to save you from manually having to input everything. Now, if you work with maybe a smaller bank, they may not have the luxury of that, but most banks do have that. And then you really just kind of want to think about what categories, what are the types of things that you're spending money on. You're spending money on advertising, you're spending money on marketing, you're spending money on meals with clients, you're spending money on education, on networking events. So make sure that when you then get them into the spreadsheet, you attach a little label with a category on it, okay? Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. If some of you guys are managing multiple accounts, if you have bank accounts and credit cards, and there's lots of different sources that you have to be accessing to get all that information, and or you have more than 20 to 30 transactions a month, you do need to think about getting into an accounting software. And I always recommend QuickBooks because it's tried and true and it's going to grow into your business. There's a little bit of a learning curve, so I always recommend you get some training or some help. We offer that if that's something you need to learn how to use it up front. But once you get into managing the many transactions, you're doing too much work to do your accounting to keep it up. Now, I want to give you guys a warning. There are other accounting softwares, and you can use them. GoDaddy has a great one. I call it like beginner accounting software. There's Account Edge. That's another one that's a great beginner one. There's some invoicing software programs that label themselves as accounting software, and they're not. And let me explain to you a little bit why. So FreshBooks is invoicing software, and it's awesome at that. I love that, and I have clients that use both, right? And I kind of feel like that's a really good entry level if you're not really managing enough transactions. FreshBooks is a good way to start, but it's not a true accounting software because it's not tracking cash. It's not looking at the way cash moves in and out of your business. And once your business gets more sophisticated, FreshBooks isn't going to be able to give you enough information for what's happening in your business, okay? So it's fine to start with some of those things. You can evolve into other software later, but there's also no need to. You can also run stuff off of Excel, okay? What else is going to help you guys here on my little checklist? You need to have professionals help you. So at the very least, have a tax account. Most of you do, which is great. And then later, if you're able to afford it and you have so many transactions you don't want to run it, consider a bookkeeper. But it's not something that everybody needs to run into, okay? And so every month what you want to be doing is you want to be downloading those transactions either from the bank, from your bank online if you can. The wonderful thing about QuickBooks is that it does it for you and you don't have to be downloading anything and putting anything into a spreadsheet. It's all done for you. And then you want to grab that bank statement. So I need to see the paper. I print out the bank statement and I look back into my little accounting file, the monthly accounting file that I talked about at the beginning, and I look to make sure that I have all the receipts. And if you're missing any receipts, that's life, right? Don't freak out, but just like make a little post-it that says, oh, this was a $2 parking and I forgot to get the thing from the valet. Write a little note, because if you are audited, chances are they're going to be okay with that, unless you have like a file folder full of post-its, then you're in trouble. And then it's just like a red flag that you're disorganized. And so you want to be inputting that. And then you want to take a look at the end of the month and see, okay, income versus expenses. That tells you what your profits are in your business. If you had more income than expenses, so let's say you had $10,000 in income and you had $3,000 in expenses. So 10 minus 3 is 7. $7,000 of net profit, net income in your business. As a business owner, that is what you earned in your business. And so this is the importance of knowing what your income and your expense is every single month within your business. Because otherwise, it's way too hard to be an entrepreneur if you're not seeing the success come out. And sadly, the metrics of money is one of the few ways that you can actually find out if your business is barely surviving or it's thriving. So what are your questions? Let me see, I have a couple of things here I can see from Melissa. I don't have any questions. What are you? Am I scaring all of you guys with all this accounting stuff? I want you guys to know I have an accounting checklist for you. So a lot of the stuff I've just been throwing at you really fast. And if you're trying to take notes, I do have a monthly checklist that I want you guys to download from our site. And it's going to help you have a little bit of accountability every single month for your monthly accounting day, okay? Oh, here we have a question. So yes, Melissa, good point. So QuickBooks has charts and reports that are built in to show you the profit and loss, okay? So a lot of what you have to do manually in Excel to get information, like, sales by customer and, profit versus loss, a lot of those manual things that you're doing that I went to college for and I worked in the field for and I did manually, like nobody should be doing that, right? So that's why you have software to do these things for us. You literally press a button and it will tell you what your profit and loss is for the month. And it's so easy, it's worth it. And so, okay, good question. Should you reconcile more often than 1 time a month if you're just beginning? Honestly, okay, so the word reconcile is actually misused by most business owners. What you mean is adding transactions. Do you need to add transactions or sort through your income and expenses more than once a month? If you're a small business, no, do it once a month. Oh, and that was my other tip that I skipped right over in the beginning. I want you to circle one day each month, call it the first Monday of every single month, and make that your accounting day to review the last month and see what happened, okay? So if you're new business or if you have not that many transactions every month, just commit to doing it that one day. But if you do it that one day, it's going to be so much easier than waiting at the end of the year and walking to your tax accountant's office with that ugly shoe box of receipts that is your pile of denial. So if you do it every single month, you can be proactive about seeing what your earnings are in your business, okay? So how do you know how to categorize expenses? In the beginning, it's a little bit of a gut feeling. You have to think of like what type of expense it is. When you get into QuickBooks, QuickBooks is going to give you a chart of accounts. And in our QuickBooks course, I give people a list of small business, small creative business, small wedding business accounts, which are the categories that I think that you should have, okay? But in the beginning, it's gonna be a gut feeling. This was an advertising expense. I bought an ad. I bought pencils and notepads. That is office supplies, okay? Julie, I'm having a hard time deciding between QuickBooks for self-employed and the standard version. Simple start. 99% of the time, you should probably be on the standard version for the small business. The self-employed one is for what I think is like a true freelancer, somebody who is just running all of their expenses, income and expenses under their personal bank account and not separating the two. So that's what the self-employed is called. Most creative business owners have learned, and maybe this is something like I've worked hard to educate people to get your own business bank account. And if you're at that point in time where you have a business bank account, then you definitely want to do the standard version. Start with Simple Start. You can always upgrade. It's harder to downgrade. So start with the most simple thing you need. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so your action item for today is to, what I should have started with, schedule one day each month to review your income and expenses. So what I want you to do right now before you get off this call is open up your calendar and say every Monday of the first Monday of the month, I'm going to review my income and expenses from the last month. I'm going to download my transactions and I'm going to get myself organized. The second thing I want you to do is to label your folders to manage all of your paperwork, May through next April, and that way you have 12 months. So you can do it May through December, and then in January you start all over again. Julie, one more question. When QuickBooks pulls in your numbers from PayPal or Stripe, does it separate the fees from the sales? PayPal does not. So what you need to go in and do is make a journal entry or make an expense transaction at the end of the month that just shows all the fees. And shoot me an email if you want to know more about that. I can explain that. And we also have a QuickBooks course that teaches that a little bit more. I'm at michelle@sageweddingpros.com. And I'm going to pop into the comments our little download that we have, our free download. It is an Accounting 101 monthly checklist, everything that you should be doing on your accounting day. And you can find it at sageweddingpros.com/accounting 101. Thanks, everybody. Feel free to pop in with any more questions you have on this video.